Can you figure out where I'm at? Let me give you some clues here. Pretty easy to tell that we are in Las Vegas. I just landed here from Dallas, actually. The video you guys just watched last week of the live stream, or just a couple days ago, that happened yesterday. Got on a plane today, flew out here to Vegas. It's around 6:30 p.m. My ritual here in Vegas is when I land, I usually head straight to the Bellagio and start playing some 5-10 no limits. So we're not going to change ritual. We're not going to change history here. We just landed. I'm hungry though. I got to get some food first, and then we're going to go play some poker. I hop in a cab and I head to the Las Vegas Strip. One of my favorite things about Vegas is looking up at the big bright lights of the casinos and the hotels. Where I grew up, there was nothing like this when I was younger, so it's really cool to come here even though I've seen it numerous times and see these big casinos and hotels. I head over here to the Aria to get some food at Lemongrass, which is a nice Asian restaurant. I get myself some curry chicken and rice and then head over to the Bellagio, buying for $1,500 at the 5-10 game. I bump it to $30 with Ace King offsuit. Folds around to the big blind who makes the call. We're heads up here. Our first flop in Vegas, and it's King 9 rainbow flopping trips. He checks. I decide to get tricky and check this one back. Turn is a queen, and now my opponent leads out for a $40 bet. I could raise here, but if he has a queen, he's drawing dead. If he's bluffing, I want to allow him to keep bluffing, so I just make the call, and river card is a 4, and now unfortunately he checks over to me. He can definitely have a 9x hand here, a queen x hand, so I don't want to go too big. I want to try to target those holdings, so I make it $60, and he folds. Talk about a change in pace. Just 24 hours before this, I was playing crazy mega deep stack live stream poker in Texas, 5, 10, 25, 50, sometimes $100 straddles, almost $19,000 effective. And now a day later, I'm in Vegas playing just 5, 10, $1,500 effective. However, I really do like this Bellagio 5-10 game. I do feel like it's the perfect size. That's what she said. Anyway, going here to the flop with pocket queens, I raise and get one call from the big blind, and I flop a set on King Queen 7 rainbow. He checks, I bet $40, and now the big blind check raises to $260. A very large size here, 6x my raise. We're holding the second nuts, but essentially we have the nuts given the fact that he didn't 3-bet pre-flop. We can assume he doesn't have pocket kings. He could have 2-pair or some bluffs like straight draws. So I decide to call, and the turn card's the ace of clubs. I don't like this card at all because if he did have a king x hand, this is going to scare him. If he had jack 10 for a straight draw as a bluff on the flop, he now got there for a straight, but my opponent continues for a smaller sizing than he made on the flop. He bets $250. Well, obviously we're never folding. We maybe could raise here, but given the fact that I only have about $1,200 behind, I feel like raising doesn't really accomplish too much. Gets him to fold all of his bluffs. I really just don't think he's going to have 2-pair very often. I think once he bets his turn card, he's going to have hands like ace-jack or ace-10 that he check raised on the flop but then made top pair on the turn. Don't want to get him to fold those hands, so I just make the call. River card 4 of hearts. We do not make a full house. We're now losing to kings, aces, and jack 10 for a straight. Aces and kings seem very unlikely, but my opponent continues for a smaller sizing now than he made on the flop and on the turn, $240. This just really feels like he has a single pair ace, or maybe he has a hand like king 7 that he's trying to get me to call with an ace jack or an ace 10 hand. Obviously, we just have one option here, $1,000 left. We're going to go all in and hope for a call. All in.
All in.
Once I go all in, he doesn't snap call, which is great, meaning we have the best hand, and eventually, after about 30 seconds, he looks very frustrated, and he gives his cards back to the dealer. We get a nice pot here shipped in our direction. About a half an hour later, I'm in the first position here with 10 of spades, 10 of diamonds, raised to $30. Small blind calls 30, big blind calls 30, 3 ways to an ace, 6-3 to diamond board. Now with one overcard to my pair, I'm not really liking this board, but I feel like we're still going to have the best hand a decent amount of the time. No Broadway cards are out here, no 7s, 8s, 9s, or 6s. So I put out a small 1/3 pot size bet, and the small blind makes the call. Turn king of diamonds, another overcard to my pair, and bring in the flush. The action goes check, check. River 6 of clubs. Small blind now leads for a $60 bet. This seems somewhat interesting here. I mean, would he be leading out with a one pair ace on this river? It is possible. I feel like we're just going to have to make the discipline fold here and never know. He could have maybe bluffed us with a 4-5 hand or a smaller pocket pair, but I think I made a good fold here. This next hand is a fun one. There's a $20 straddle under the gun. The hijack player raises to 50. I have ace king suited in the small blind, a mandatory 3-bet. I make it $220 back over here to the hijack player, who thinks for a little bit of time. He had been on the tighter side throughout this session, so I feel like if he calls here, he's going to have a lot of pocket pairs. Hands like ace-king, ace-queen, maybe king-queen suited, and eventually he does decide to make the call. The dealer collects our chips and then puts them into the middle of the pot and slides out 3 cards, queen, 10, 7, 2 diamonds. We flop decent, 2 overcards and a gut shot straight draw, but on this particular board in a 3-bet pot versus a tight opponent, I do feel like he's going to connect pretty well here, so I decide to check out of position. I can gain a lot of information too, considering that I can see what he does here on the flop. Eventually, he decides to check back, so we can assume that he doesn't have hands like ace-queen, king-queen, pocket queens, pocket 10s, pocket 7s. So when the turn card's to 5 of clubs, I do feel like we have the green light now to start semi-bluffing. I can get him to fold out hands like pocket 9s, pocket 8s, maybe pocket jacks. So I continue for a small bet of $150. I do feel like in this situation, we're going to have to double barrel here a lot of the time. I don't think this $150 bet's going to get the job done. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to follow it up with a big bet here on the river if he does decide to call, which he does. So I think he's still stuck here with hands like medium pocket pairs, possibly an ace-10 or an ace-king hand himself. So when the river card is the 6 of clubs, the backdoor flush gets there, I am stuck in a very weird spot. It's a 3-bet pot. I checked on the flop. His range is somewhat capped here to basically 1 pair hands. I mean, it is possible he could have picked up a flush draw here on the turn. I can either check and give up and most likely lose this pot, or I could go for it and try to bluff big. And I decided to just go for it here. Versus a tighter opponent, I can try to put a lot of pressure on his single pair hands. So I slide out a $600 bluff here on the river. Traveling back and forth between Vegas, Florida, and Texas, I've realized that the regs out here in Vegas tend to overfold, where the regs in Florida and Texas seem to overcall, which means when I'm out here in Vegas, I tend to overbluff, because my opponents will be folding a lot more. When I'm in Texas and Florida, bluffing just doesn't really work. It also helps that this game is smaller than the normal game that I usually play, which means I feel more comfortable putting out big bets. I mean, when this was a 10, 25, 50 game, I may not have the balls to go for it here on the river, but luckily for us, my opponent eventually folds. We take this one down with ace high, getting some orange and black chips pushed in our direction. Next hand, I raise 8-9 suited at $30. I get 3-bet immediately to my left by a European pro, some guy who looks like he plays a lot of online poker and came to Vegas for some nice, soft, live poker games. Well, I'm going to call here with a suited connector out of position, and we flop a monster on Jack 10-4, 2 clubs. I have an open-ended straight flush draw. Basically the best flop you can get with 8-9 of clubs. I check and he bets $70. I glance over at his stack and he's got about $1,200 left. And I feel like in this situation, we're going to be wanting to put max pressure on his 1 pair hands. Hands like aces, kings, queens, ace-jack, king-jack suited. I feel like we can put into a tough spot if we check raise big here on the flop and then shove the turn. So I take my time trying to think about sizing here. and I decided to go big, 330 bucks. It doesn't matter though, he snap folds and we win. I was feeling a little bit worn out, tired, maybe a headache, so I decided to get myself a free glass of red wine and then raise it up here under the gun with pocket sevens, folds all the way to the big blind who makes the call. This particular player in the big blind tells me he does watch my poker videos, so thank you for that, man, but no friends on the flop, turn, and river. So when the board comes out 9-4-4, he checks. I bet $30 here with my under pair, and he makes the call. He's going to have a big advantage on me here because he knows exactly how I play after watching 170 of my videos. Well, the turn card's 8 of diamonds, action goes check, check, and river card is a 9, double pairing the board. So we do have a very strong hand here. We have a pair. On a double paired board, it's very hard to make a full house on boards like this, and my opponent leads into me for an $80 bet. I do feel like we could get rid of hands like king high and queen high here, but on a paired board with a pair, I decide to make the call, and we get shown the bad news. 4-5 of hearts for flop trips, river full house, and we get schooled by a vlog watcher. My new friend here on the right puts a $20 straddle on under the gun. I'm in under the gun +1 and put on the $40 straddle. It folds all the way back over to him and the 20, and he raises here to 120 bucks. I've got 6-9 suited in the 40, and if I'm going to put on the double straddle, I've got to defend with the big lick, the suited big lick, so I make the call. Heads up here to king, queen, 3, 2 hearts. We flop pretty good. Flush draw here, and now he continues for an $80 bet. He's got about $600 behind. In this situation, I think raising would be an overplay or a punt, so we're just going to call, see what happens on the turn. Heads up now to the 7 of diamonds, bringing 2 flush draws, and now my opponent slows down and checks. I glance over at a stack. He's got a little bit less than $600. Should I check here, try to get the free river card, or should I bet? What's going through my head here is that once he raises pre-flop, bets this flop, and then checks his turn, he probably doesn't ever have a top pair holding or even a second pair holding. He probably has some ace high hands, maybe some under pairs of the board. I just have 9 high here. If I check, I've got to try to hit my hand on the river, but if I bluff, I can get him to fold out a lot of better hands, so I decide to go for it and put him all in.
Once or twice?
Once. One time.
I have a heart.
Oh, no, really? That's not good for me.
One time.
Yeah, once. That sucks for me. Yeah. Ay, nice hand. Dang, you're supposed to fold.
I win, yeah.
Nice hand. Well, that was basically the worst case scenario. We go all in with 9 high flush draw and get called by the ace high flush draw, no 9 or 6 on the river, and we end up losing over a $1,000 pot here to just ace high. But like I've said before, if my money has to go anywhere, I'm glad it's going to somebody who watches my videos. I end up doubling this guy up, getting another glass of wine, and then shortly after calling it a night. Cheers. You're welcome. All right, guys, that is it for this one. I am completely exhausted. Yesterday, I played the live stream in Texas. I woke up this morning getting like 5 hours of sleep, flew all the way here to Vegas, came right to the casino, played 5-10 no limit. We started off there good, flopping a set of queens, winning a big pot, getting some bluffs through, and then I put on the $40 straddle, got 9-6 of hearts, flopped a flush draw, got it all in against the ace high flush draw. I was basically drawing dead, lost all my profit in that hand, ended up winning though $201 on the day. I am tired, I'm gonna go home. I drank a glass of wine and it's like putting me to sleep. So I'm just gonna walk home, enjoy the sights, enjoy the nice, pretty buildings here in Vegas. I have a long weekend ahead of me. grinding some big games. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, I'll see ya.